Look, we live in an era of absolute oversharing, right? The personal brand, the constant status updates, broadcasting literally every meal and feeling. We're constantly told that vulnerability is power and that transparency builds connection. But what if that's a complete lie? In this explainer, we're going to dive deep into the profound power of strategic concealment. And stick with me, because by the end of this, you're going to learn the 7 specific secrets you absolutely must protect at all costs. That includes 3 intimately dangerous ones that could literally destroy your leverage if they ever fall into the wrong hands. So let's completely shatter this societal norm that you have to be an open book and share everything online.
Start by asking yourself a pretty uncomfortable question. How many times has a secret you whispered in a moment of closeness been completely weaponized against you in a moment of conflict? Or, how many times has your honesty been used to manipulate your guilt? It's a terrible feeling, but it reveals a really harsh truth about human nature. When you explain yourself entirely to people, you actually diminish yourself. You become predictable, common, and easily manipulated. Have you ever noticed that the most powerful people in the room are rarely the ones talking the most? They're the ones who are completely impossible to read. But to really understand why we feel this intense pressure to share everything, we gotta look at what society is actively selling us.
So here's the thing. What the internet currently sells as authenticity is really just an industrial construct. It's a marketing tool. And this immense pressure to present a polished, relatable brand forces us into these disastrous situations of oversharing. Take the tragic case of Justine Sacco. She was just an ordinary woman whose entire life and career were ruined overnight by a single, albeit tasteless tweet that the internet just decided to fixate on forever. Or consider the A Gay Girl in Damascus blog. This was supposedly a deeply authentic, vulnerable voice from a Syrian woman during a war. While it turned out to be a complete hoax, orchestrated by an American man just to build a platform and manipulate readers' emotions. The internet demands your true self, right? But it really only does that to fix you in time and punish you for it.
And this relentless demand for vulnerability has literally birthed an entirely fabricated influencer industry. I mean, look at Michaela. She's a wildly popular 19-year-old influencer, but she's completely CGI. She is a computer generation. Yet she shares these deeply vulnerable, totally fabricated stories about trauma just to build trust and sell clothes. It's performative vulnerability. Basically vulnerability porn designed purely to extract engagement. And honestly, it is a rigged game from the start. Data actually shows that 73% of sponsorships go to white influencers anyway, which just proves the system heavily favors very specific, homogenized ideals, all while demanding that you bleed your real life onto a screen for likes.
But hey, this danger isn't exactly new. If we look at things like the 48 Laws of Power, or historical heavyweights like Machiavelli and monarchs of the Iberian Baroque period like Philip II, they profoundly understood this. They knew that true power comes from dissimulation. There's this great concept that a prince must turn his heart into a forest, meaning keeping your true feelings totally concealed to maintain your dignity and your leverage. They practice something called potestas sui, which is basically the absolute mastery of the self. That means keeping the exact same composed face in moments of absolute victory as you do in devastating defeat. They didn't look at a conversation as a confessional. They viewed it as a strategic game where literally every sentence was a calculated move.
Okay, so how do we actually build this into an actionable strategy for ourselves? Well, it starts with 4 structural pillars of information that you must absolutely never share. First up, your ethical red lines. If you go around telling people you could never lie or you can't handle confrontation, you are basically handing them a treasure map of your weaknesses. Second, the sweat behind the magic. Never reveal how hard you worked on something, because it kind of devalues the victory. You want to make it look like a natural gift, a concept Renaissance courtiers actually called sprezzatura. Third is your exit strategy, because if people know you have a backup plan, they're going to stop betting on your primary plan. And fourth, the exact extent of your intelligence. If you show off everything you know, people put their guards up. But if you play the fool just a bit, they get careless and they hand you the advantage.
Now, protecting these secrets often requires mastering one of the hardest skills out there, silence, especially in high-stakes negotiations. But there is a massive difference between tactical silence and awkward silence. Awkward silence is anxious, right? It's you desperately wanting to fill the empty space. But tactical silence, that is an observant, calm, and totally neutral pause. Think about it. When someone makes a proposal or an emotional demand, snapping back an immediate response feels cheap. Have you ever tried just holding a deliberate, confident pause? It completely interrupts their momentum. It makes them super uncomfortable. And honestly,
More often than not, they will negotiate against themselves. They'll drop their price or reveal hidden constraints just to fill that quiet air.
All right, I really have to warn you here. If those first 4 secrets were just the structural beams of your daily life, these final 3 pieces of information are intimately dangerous. These are the secrets that live in the deepest, most vulnerable parts of your heart, and because they are so deeply personal, they are the absolute most hazardous things to expose to anyone. I mean anyone, even your closest, most trusted confidants. Because once these are out in the open, there's literally no taking them back. So what are they? First, your finances. Whether you're drowning in debt or swimming in gold, revealing this just invites predators or parasites. You've got to maintain financial ambiguity. Next up, your deepest resentments. When you list your enemies or you complain about who hurt you, you are literally handing people your trigger buttons. You're showing them exactly how to hurt you in the future. And finally, your grand design. You know, that huge project, that ultimate goal? When you announce it to the world, your brain gets this premature dopamine hit of success. Your motivation completely tanks, and worse, you give your rivals the exact coordinates to block your next move. You need to move in complete silence. Do not announce the start, only announce the finish.
Now you might be thinking, okay, but how do I actually survive in a world that constantly demands I share? If I just stay completely silent, I'm going to look super suspicious. Well, this is where you deploy the art of the decoy. You basically feed people fake conversational flares. Step 1 is the calculated minor confession. So if someone asks what's wrong, don't tell them your grand design is falling apart. Tell them your back hurts and you didn't sleep well. It's relatable, it satisfies their craving for your vulnerability, but it totally protects your core. Step 2 is the boring truth. If they ask about your finances, just use the Grey Rock method. Talk about inflation and mundane market volatility until their eyes completely glaze over and they change the subject themselves. You want to give them pebbles so they don't go looking for the mountain.
And here's the beautiful irony of all this. By protecting your core, you actually preserve your ability to be truly authentic. Because ultimately, true existential authenticity isn't about broadcasting every single thought you have for society's validation. Like philosophers Sartre and Simone de Beauvoir argued, authenticity is an ongoing private adventure. It's about making free choices and creating your own projects. We actually see glimpses of this true authenticity online when people choose privacy and intentionality. Think about the YouTuber Jenna Marbles, who authentically self-reflected and chose to leave her massive platform entirely on her own terms just to avoid causing harm. Or even the original premise of the BeReal app, stripping away the ads and the follower counts just to share unedited minutiae with close friends. True authenticity is a private choice, not a public performance.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final, incredibly provocative thought. Every single time you overshare just to get a little validation, you are leaking your vital energy to the crowd. You're essentially begging the world to witness you just so you can feel real. So the choice is ultimately yours. Are you going to continue to be an open book, readable, predictable, and totally vulnerable to manipulation? Or will you embrace the powerful shadow of the cipher, keeping your mouth shut, building your empire in the dark, and becoming a force that absolutely no one sees coming until it's far too late to stop? Think very, very carefully about what you share next.